We are witnessing the beginning of a new unfolding democracy.
Covering well. Although they still, as usual, the influences are there. But
Chapter 1. A golden mirage. Picture this: suitcases full of gold and bricks of cash moving smoothly through airports under diplomatic protection. High-rise offices in Harare and glimmering skyscrapers in Dubai concealing some of the most sophisticated networks of financial crime. This isn't a movie, it's the real-world operation known as the Gold Mafia. Behind the shine of bullion bars lies a network stretching across continents. At the heart of it is a well-oiled machine funneling illicit Zimbabwean gold into global markets, laundering as much as $1.2 billion through shell companies, religious fronts, and banking loopholes. These aren't backdoor deals made in shadowy alleys. Some of them happen in boardrooms, on tarmacs, and in plush hotel lobbies. The recent Al Jazeera investigation lifted the curtain on how deep and structured the operation is. What seemed like isolated incidents of smuggling turned out to be symptoms of a much larger system, one that's enabling sanctioned governments to sidestep restrictions and turn raw gold into clean cash. And at the core of this system is Dubai, described in the investigation as the new El Dorado, a hub where the shine of the metal-blind scrutiny and questions vanish in the glitter of market competition. Chapter 2. Zimbabwe's glistening trap. Zimbabwe has long been known for its mineral wealth, but that treasure chest has turned into a political slush fund. The country's gold isn't just enriching individuals, it's allegedly propping up the regime. According to the investigation, the state itself has become both a beneficiary and an enabler of this laundering web. President Emerson Mnangagwa's own niece was caught with gold in her handbag at the airport, a scandal that fizzled out without consequence. This isn't a fluke. It reflects a systemic pattern of impunity, insiders say. And the reason gold is so valuable in this scheme: it's easy to melt down, hard to trace, and even harder to prosecute once it's turned into cold, hard currency. Smugglers aren't hiding in back alleys. They're striding through airports with VIP access. They're backed by religious leaders with diplomatic status, high-level reserve bank officials, and a string of businessmen operating as middlemen and enablers. These individuals aren't just rogue actors. Many are deeply embedded within Zimbabwe's institutions, revealing a state of internal capture that corrodes every layer of financial accountability. Chapter 3. Suitcases and Sermons. Meet Hubert Angel, the flamboyant pastor and diplomat whose role in the laundering ring stunned many. He and his associate Ricky Doolan, an English preacher with a taste for flashy deals, became pivotal figures in the Al Jazeera undercover sting. Their confidence was jaw-dropping, talking openly about moving millions through fake churches, offering to launder money for undercover reporters pretending to be Chinese criminals. But this isn't just about one pair of flashy schemers. They represent a growing trend where religion becomes a cloak for laundering. With diplomatic immunity and religious respectability, actors like these can transport gold and cash with fewer questions asked. When faith meets finance, the rules become slippery. And for those in the Gold Mafia, that's the point. Chapter 4. The Dubai Loop. Dubai's name comes up repeatedly for good reason. The UAE denies wrongdoing, but according to investigators, the city has become a gold trader's dreamland. Fast, efficient, and loose on due diligence. With its strategic location, vast refining industry, and hungry market, Dubai is where dirty gold gets cleaned and sold to global buyers. Here's how it works. Gold is mined or bought cheaply in Zimbabwe, sometimes smuggled out, sometimes sold through legal channels with shady backdoors. It's then melted, refined, and marked with new origins. Once it reaches Dubai, it's just gold, its murky past erased. Dubai offers limited transparency in gold import tracking, making it nearly impossible to determine where each bar truly came from. That makes it the perfect landing zone for syndicates who need to make their transactions look legitimate. And because Dubai is competing with other gold hubs like Switzerland and London, there's little incentive for the city to tighten restrictions. The more gold that flows through, the more money is made. That's not just bad news for accountability, it's a lifeline for kleptocracies seeking to wash their earnings clean. Chapter 5: Banking on Loopholes. The network doesn't stop with gold, it stretches into banks, both in Zimbabwe and South Africa. Some major South African banks have been named in the documents uncovered by journalists. While responses vary, some denied involvement, others pledged internal reviews, the investigation reveals how easily financial institutions can be used, knowingly or not, to clean illicit funds. Often shell companies or friendly accounts are used to shift funds, routing millions across borders with only the thinnest paper trails. And when compliance systems fail, or are bypassed intentionally, the money keeps flowing. This isn't just about weak regulation, it's about regulatory systems being outpaced by well-organized financial crime. As long as the banks remain underfunded and undertrained in detecting complex laundering schemes, the Gold Mafia will continue to exploit the system. Chapter 6: Power, Profit and Factions. Gold in Zimbabwe isn't just a precious resource, it's political capital. The deeper one looks into the inner workings of the country's ruling party, ZANU-PF, the clearer it becomes. Gold profits aren't only fueling luxury lifestyles, they're fueling power plays. Internal factionalism within the ruling elite has turned gold into a strategic weapon. Competing interests within the political and military structures jostle for a bigger slice of the gold pie, with alliances shifting based on access to smuggling routes, diplomatic cover, and financial networks. This competition isn't just about wealth, it's about influence. Gold money funds election campaigns, silences critics, and rewards loyalty. One faction's control over a refinery or export license can determine the outcome of intra-party battles. This has created a high-stakes game where loyalty is bought with bullion, and betrayals are punished not in courtrooms, but in lost contracts and mysterious disappearances. In such a system, exposure of criminal conduct doesn't lead to prosecution. It leads to strategic containment. A few low-level enablers might be sacrificed to appease public outcry, but the power brokers at the top remain untouched. Chapter 7: The Vanishing Act of Accountability. Following Al Jazeera's exposé, there was a brief burst of activity. Zimbabwe's Anti-Corruption Commission made some noise. The president's spokespeople issued firm denials. A few officials hinted at pending investigations. But the pattern soon returned to normal. In Zimbabwe, the institutions tasked with upholding justice are often undermined from within. The Financial Intelligence Unit at the Reserve Bank, for instance, quickly issued clean reports on some of the implicated individuals. Chapter 8: South Africa's Quiet Complicity. Just across the border, South Africa finds itself uncomfortably adjacent to the scandal. 3 major South African banks were flagged in the investigation. Their systems, it seems, were used to channel large sums of money connected to the laundering operation. Some banks took swift action, promising investigations. Others dismissed the allegations entirely. But the response from authorities has been muted. That's partly due to the immense burden already weighing on South Africa's prosecutorial bodies. The National Prosecuting Authority and financial forensics teams are stretched thin. High-profile cases of state capture from the past decade have already flooded their capacity. And without strong political backing and additional resources, going after transnational laundering rings feels like chasing ghosts. It's not that South Africa lacks the tools, it's that the bandwidth is insufficient and the political will inconsistent. So far, the Al Jazeera materials have reportedly been handed over to the authorities. But there's little indication of an urgent, coordinated response. And while the banks may clean up internal compliance, the networks exposed reach far deeper than a few flagged transactions. Chapter 9: The Swiss Finish. Once gold leaves Africa and enters refining hubs like Switzerland, it often gains a new identity. Origin certificates are issued, smelters rebrand the metal, and buyers in Europe or the Middle East see nothing suspicious. The gold becomes indistinguishable from that mined in legal, regulated operations. This final laundering stage is what makes the whole operation so successful. The original source, often illegal, unregulated, or connected to political corruption, is erased in the fire of a refinery furnace. What remains is a globally tradable asset, acceptable to luxury jewelers, electronics manufacturers, and bullion investors alike. This stage also ensures that the paper trail appears clean. Export permits, customs records, and banking documentation all align on the surface. But the reality is far messier, buried beneath layers of shell companies and political interference. International watchdogs have long criticized this loophole. Yet enforcement is weak. The gold industry remains under-regulated compared to other financial sectors, and that lack of oversight gives the gold mafia the final piece it needs to close the laundering loop. Chapter 10 of Grey Lists and Grey Morality. Ironically, in the midst of all this, Zimbabwe was recently removed from the Financial Action Task Force's FATF Grey List. That list identifies countries with deficiencies in combating money laundering and terror financing. Why was Zimbabwe taken off just as these allegations surfaced? That question remains unanswered. No clear criteria have been shared. It raises doubts about the FATF process itself. How can a country implicated in a billion-dollar laundering scheme earn a clean bill of financial health? At the same time, South Africa and Mozambique were added to the grey list. It's a perplexing contrast, especially when the Al Jazeera investigation provides video evidence, documentation, and insider testimony directly implicating Zimbabwe's state and financial machinery. This inconsistency hints at the politicization of global financial oversight. If a country can maneuver its way off the grey list without addressing core issues, what message does that send to others? Chapter 11, A Call for Consequence. The real test now isn't whether these revelations are true, the evidence is overwhelming. The test is whether there will be consequences. Whether international bodies, financial regulators, and governments will act on what's been uncovered. The power of exposés like this isn't just in naming names, it's in pushing systems to do what they're supposed to. Freeze assets, revoke passports, block access to global financial networks. These are the levers that can be pulled. But doing so requires political will. It requires recognizing that corruption isn't a local issue, it's a global threat. And it requires standing up, even when it's uncomfortable, to those who profit from chaos. If this exposé opened your eyes, support this kind of storytelling by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Stay informed, stay alert, and keep questioning the system.